The dark reflection. Trigger warning. Before we begin, please note, this story contains elements of supernatural activity, suspense, and fearful situations. Viewer discretion is advised. Tonight's story follows Lily, a photographer who captures something strange and unsettling in her Christmas photos. The countdown continues to night 5. Lily. I've been a photographer for years. I've captured thousands of faces and countless expressions, each one unique, each one holding its own story. I'm used to looking into people's eyes through a lens, seeing a side of them they rarely show. But there was one face that appeared in my photos recently, a face that wasn't supposed to be there. And it's a face I'll never forget. It was a quiet night. I was editing photos from a family holiday shoot, something I'd done countless times before. Christmas lights twinkled in the background, the family's laughter frozen in each frame, warmth captured on film. I went through dozens of images, adjusting lighting, sharpening details, and everything seemed fine, until I got to the last set of photos. As I scrolled through, something caught my eye. It was barely visible, just a faint outline in the background. A face, half hidden in shadow, blending into the background. I paused, zooming in to get a closer look, and a chill crept over me. It was a woman, standing just outside the light, her face barely illuminated but visible enough that I could make out her eyes. They were cold, empty, like she was watching. I stared at her, my mind racing. She didn't belong in that photo. She hadn't been there during the shoot. I was sure of it. I told myself it was a trick of the light, a strange reflection, maybe something in the background that had cast a shadow just right. But the longer I looked, the more uneasy I felt. There was something about her face, something hauntingly familiar, though I couldn't place it. Trying to shake off the feeling, I deleted the image and moved on, telling myself it was nothing. But that night, as I lay in bed, her face haunted me. Those hollow eyes, the way they seemed to look straight through me. I couldn't get it out of my mind. Returning to my computer the next day, continuing work, but the presence only grows. The next day, I was editing photos from another shoot. Families, couples, friends, everyone celebrating, happy, surrounded by holiday cheer. But as I scrolled through the images, I felt it again. That chill, that feeling of being watched. I stopped on one photo, a candid shot of a couple laughing, holding each other close. And there she was again. That woman, standing off to the side, just barely visible, her face blending into the shadows. Her eyes met mine, cold and empty, like she was waiting. A jolt of fear shot through me. This couldn't be a coincidence. I hadn't photographed this woman. She wasn't there when I'd taken the pictures. Yet here she was, staring back at me from the screen, her face hauntingly clear. My heart raced as I deleted the image, feeling a wave of dread settle over me. I checked through the other photos, hoping it was just that one, but the more I looked, the worse it got. In nearly every shot, there she was, lingering in the background, sometimes only a silhouette, other times fully visible, her cold eyes fixed on me. I tried deleting them, one by one, hoping that would erase her, but every time I refreshed my gallery, her face would reappear, like she was embedded in the images, refusing to be erased. I looked away from my screen, my hands shaking, feeling that oppressive sense of dread creeping over me. I grabbed my phone, desperate for a distraction, but as I opened my photo gallery, I froze. There, in my gallery, were the same photos. The woman's face stared back at me from the screen, the same lifeless eyes, the same twisted, hollow expression. She was everywhere, in every photo, every image. No matter how many times I deleted them, she kept coming back. I tried restarting my phone and clearing my storage, but nothing worked. Her face was burned into the screen, like a stain that couldn't be wiped away. I felt trapped, suffocated, like she was closing in around me, her presence pressing down with a cold, unrelenting weight. I threw my phone down, too afraid to look at it anymore, my mind spinning with questions. Who was she? Why was she in my photos? And why did she feel so familiar? I needed to get away, to clear my head. I grabbed my coat and went outside, walking aimlessly through the snow-covered streets, trying to shake off the feeling. But even as I walked, I felt it. That sensation of being watched, of someone following just a few steps behind. I glanced over my shoulder, but the street was empty, just shadows stretching out across the snow, flickering under the glow of the streetlights. When I returned home, the oppressive feeling lingered as I got ready for bed. By the time I got home, exhaustion had settled in, but so had something else. Fear. Fear that I wasn't alone, that this presence was still with me. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was all in my head and that I was overreacting. But as I walked past the mirror in the hallway, I saw something that made my blood run cold. There, in the reflection, was her face. She was standing right behind me, her eyes cold and empty, her mouth twisted into a faint, haunting smile. I felt a scream rising in my throat, but I was frozen, unable to move, my entire body paralyzed with terror. She was so close. I could feel her icy breath on my neck, the chill radiating from her. Her face was clearer now, every detail sharpened, and in that moment, I realized why she looked familiar. She was me, a twisted, hollow version of myself, a reflection of something dark, something that had been with me all along. My voice filled with horror and desperation as I realized the truth. I stumbled back, gasping for breath, feeling the walls close in around me. I looked away, my heart pounding, hoping she would disappear. But when I looked back at the mirror, she was still there, watching, waiting, her eyes filled with a cold, unrelenting malice. And then she whispered, "Lily, I'm part of you now, and I'll never leave." The room grew colder, the lights flickering, her voice echoing in my mind, filling every corner, every shadow. I tried to scream, to run, but I was trapped, surrounded by her, her presence wrapping around me like a shroud, pulling me deeper and deeper. As the lights flickered out, I caught one last glimpse of her in the mirror, her smile growing wider, her eyes filled with a darkness that swallowed everything. And in that darkness, I felt myself fading, my own reflection vanishing, replaced by hers, a haunting, twisted version of myself, trapped forever. Thank you for watching Night 5 of the 12 Nights of Terror. If you're brave enough to see what happens next, come back tomorrow for Night 6. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this countdown is only getting darker.